right, Sam, what is this? The Couchpact. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Couchpact, a Stormlight Archive reread podcast where we go through and reread the books. Currently, we're stuck in the middle of book one, and it's taken us quite a bit to come from the interludes into part two. But we're here. We're back. Tens of people doubted us. And tens of people were wrong, baby. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Sam.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Couchpact.
And this week, a very special guest, my girlfriend, Ananya. Hi, Ananya.
Hello.
And even specialer of a guest, is the first appearance of our boy Hoyd in this episode.
I'll take it.
So I gotta stop moving my hand. I know. I saw. But let's get right into it.
Well, before that, I just want to say we took a bit of a hiatus after the interludes. A little unintentionally. Things got busy.
It was in our mind the whole time.
Yeah.
Though.
We felt guilty about it.
We felt so guilty.
Yeah.
But it's over now.
Yeah. Anyone who watched the Warbreaker episode will recognize Ananya from that one. She guessed it on that one. So welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's good to see that you returned.
I'm glad we were finally able to get the show started.
I know.
It's been like a month.
Well, that and just today, the universe did not want us to start recording.
Yeah, I have a couple laceration wounds from the before.
Yeah, mine need stitches.
No, it's not that bad. But, that glass, that was my let's really talk really quick. Bed Bath & Beyond.
Why?
Has a phenomenal little section where people return stuff, and even if there's nothing wrong with the return, you get it for cheaper because someone returned it, like it was in their home, and that's disgusting. And that glass that I broke was one of 3 glasses that I got from the return section at Bed Bath & Beyond. They're my favorite glasses in the whole world.
They're pretty good glasses.
They were just straight little cute glasses. And they all died horrible deaths, like that one did slowly.
Was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Oh.
That was the last survivor.
Rip. Gotta have a funeral now.
Yeah. It's okay. You're just a shard bearer now.
Yeah, I know.
Glass.
It stings a little bit. Oh, well.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. We're chilling. We're chilling as always.
All right.
So, Sam, you have a lot of notes
I
for
do.
this chapter. I don't think I have a ton
before
of
we
notes.
really get into it, I did want to say, in the time between our last episode and this one, I did start and finish Elantris.
Okay, yeah, this is
And hot take, it sucks. It's
Sam
bad.
does
It's a
not
bad
like
book.
Elantris. And that's fair, I think.
I agree. It's fair.
It's fair for the same reason that some people like it. It's that it's the thing that was just like Raoden's supposed to be a character who doesn't have like this traumatic, terrible backstory. He's just a good guy, and then something bad happens.
To be fair, Sanderson in the afterword of the book does say that. He's like, what if it wasn't about a character who had this whole redemption arc or something, and it was just about a decent guy who was put in a shitty situation. And I can respect that, but I don't think it worked.
And that's
the only
fair.
character I found compelling was Wraithen, and his arc happens in the last hour of the book.
Yeah.
His entire growth.
Yeah.
So, but Wraithen is great. Anyway, this isn't an Elantris episode, but I just wanted to mention that it's been talked about a lot. And
you finished Elantris.
Mm-hmm.
I finished Mistborn Era 1.
Mm-hmm.
You started Mistborn Era 1.
Book 2.
You're on book 2. There's some Cosmere movements going on. And honestly, I feel robbed by the choice of guest we had on this episode. No offense to you. I just
Second time.
second time in 10 minutes. But this first introduction of Hoyd after having read Mistborn is just my God, yeah, that's fucking Hoyd, dude. And it's just when you read Way of Kings the first time, or at least for me, with Stormlight being...
You're just who's this funky little guy?
Yeah, and we're not even at this scene yet. So we're going to talk about it when we get there. It's not even in this chapter or in this set of chapters that we're doing. But for me, the turning point was the feast where he's sitting with Dalinar and he's like our goals don't quite align. Like, you shouldn't trust me quite as much. I'm like, damn, who is this man? But like here, you don't get a really big hint of that. I mean, the characters do because Sanderson knows what he's doing with Hoyd.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. Like Dalinar, like 3 times in these chapters is like, there's something odd about that man.
And Adolin's like, I like him.
That's my guy right there. But like, holy crap, yeah. If you came into Stormlight having read all of the other stuff that was out, you'd be like, damn, my boy is back. I see him. I see you. Sometimes when you're really high, you see people. Quick 3-body reference.
This also isn't a 3-body show.
That's the next
It's not
episode?
an Elantris or a 3-body show.
I know. I need to keep my what are the horses things called?
Blinders?
Yeah, I need to keep my blinders
Yeah.
on.
But you brought up 3-body. They did such a good job.
Yeah,
with the show.
We're not going to talk about it, but they did such a good job with
Yeah.
the
Go
3-body
watch it.
show. Go watch the 3-body show.
It's so good. Completely different than the book in
No relation.
a very good way.
in a phenomenal way.
Yeah.
But Stormlight. So in this chapter alone.
Oh yeah, do you want to say where we? Yeah. So I started writing the chapter titles down.
Good.
too.
good.
I think I mentioned one of the other episodes. I didn't know that the chapters had titles
Yeah.
until I started rereading it.
Yeah, this one's called Unity. We've got chapter 12, Unity, from the perspective of Adolin and Dalinar. And we are introduced to Adolin, Dalinar, Elhokar, Sadeas, and Wit as important key characters. And just kind of fucking boom, 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 boom. These are all people that you need to know
Yep.
right here.
And Renarin.
And Renarin.
And I can't forget about my boy Renarin.
He's big.
It's almost not Renarin to me because he's so he's having an okay time. You know what I mean? Renarin in the next couple books has such a terrible time that seeing him be the one to calm Adolin down is like, is that Renarin?
Who?
That's the boy I can't see. That's my boy. That's him. But yeah, I didn't even write Renarin down.
So I
Forgot about him.
I forgot about Renarin.
So I know you're gonna want to talk about this, Jack, but the first thing to notice about this chapter is there's no death rattle at the beginning. The epigraph at the beginning is.
Shall we point out that I've been saying epitaph?
I wasn't
for
going
5
to,
episodes? I
but
think we should.
I thought
think
you were
we
right. So
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's epigraph is the word for it. You can
I don't know what the difference is because epitaph is definitely still a word.
I'll find out after. Words mean things, Sam. You got to use the right word. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. So there's no death rattle at the start of this one.
No death rattle.
We get a new set of epigraphs at the start of the chapter, and I had no clue what this was because I don't know as much about the Greater Cosmere as Jack over here does.
Yeah, but
So do you want to explain what these are?
Okay. Mike, I talked with Mike about this over text really quickly. just to be
Previous podcast champion
previous
Mike.
podcast champion Mike, episode 3. Shout out to Mike. I was like, "Yo, do you remember this, and this?" Because this epitaph, which I will read, epigraph, which I will read in a second. I thought it happened in Oathbringer. Because there's a bunch of other ones in Oathbringer, the actual Oathbringer letters, which is, when I was looking around, is why these 2 are not called Oathbringer letters, and then the other 5 are called Oathbringer letters, because the other 5 are in Oathbringer. Wow, amazing. Can't believe I didn't notice that one. But we also, I'm throwing so many things in the midpoint, but really convenient that we get the switch from death rattles and the introduction to this before the first chapter where Wit's mentioned. Just by the way, Wit shows up in this chapter, and this is where we switch from death rattles to the letters. We'll call them the letters because we don't know much about them right now. But the first letter at the beginning of 12.
Well, you do. I don't.
We don't
I
know
don't
much
either.
about them right now. It's so crazy because, like, having just finished Mistborn Era 1, and then for all my people that know out there, I've read some Secret Histories up until the point that matters. I'll tell you that. There's a thing.
Just to interject, because we need another interjection into this, but you are almost done with the Cosmere, right?
Yeah,
Reading?
Mike overtook me, but I'm definitely almost done. I've got Secret Projects left.
Okay.
I've got the rest of Era 2 and then Secret Projects left,
Yep.
and I'm done. And then the
For
rest
now,
of
there
ours
will
are
be
canon.
more.
Oh yeah, he'll catch up. I'll start Wheel of Time, and then he'll catch up to me.
Yeah.
And it will be terrible.
Oh,
but
I want to go
phenomenal.
back to Wheel of Time, but I want to read Mistborn first.
So, dude, this is why, especially after reading this is why you really got to do Mistborn next, is the way that this all fits together, which I won't talk about right now.
You could talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it. You two need this. So, we're going to cover chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15 in this
Hopefully.
episode.
If we
Hopefully, I guess, unless it goes really fucking long.
More
But
unless you break another glass.
I stopped writing them down after 15. There is more to just this side of the letter, but I'm going to read off the 4 chapters that I have right here, which is
Go for it.
Old friend, I hope this missive finds you well, though as you are now essentially immortal, I would guess that wellness on your part is something of a given. And that's all we get for 12. 13 goes, I realize that you are probably still angry. That is pleasant to know. Much as your perpetual health, I have come to rely upon your dissatisfaction with me. It is one of the Cosmere's great constants, I should think. 13. 14 is, let me first assure you that the element is quite safe. I have found a good home for it. I protect its safety like I protect my own skin, you might say. Not very subtle, my boy. On the 15, you did not agree with my...
even I could kind of figure out what he was talking about there. I was like, okay, so he literally like is some sort of powerful thing, like, or he's melded with some sort of object that, yeah, like
not incredibly subtle.
but that's only because I'm rereading it and because I know it's Hoyd.
Right. You know that there's a greater picture going on with this letter, so
right.
You're like, it must have subtext. If you're just reading it, you don't necessarily pull the subtext.
On my first read, I was like, I don't know what the hell any of this means.
It's like reading the interludes for the first time.
Also, you're reading them all together. I feel like that would help. That helps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not being split up by chapter by chapter. Exactly. And then for the last bit that I have written down, you do not agree with my quest. I understand that so much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely. And then it's going to continue with Hoyd's part to whoever he's talking to.
So is this is Hoyd talking?
This is Hoyd talking.
Okay.
In Words of Radiance...
But there's more letters in Words of Radiance?
There's more letters in Words of Radiance. Is going to be this person's response to Hoyd. And then in Oathbringer, we get a series of letters between, I don't think we get any from Hoyd's side. I think it's all responses to letters from Hoyd. We get a couple different personalities responding to Hoyd asking for something.
When we figured this out the other day when I was reading, and Jack came in, and I was like, what are these epigraphs are different. I said epitaphs because we didn't figure it out yet.
Yeah.
That was a different word. I was like, these epitaphs are different than the death rattles. I didn't notice this in the first read. I was like, do you know what these are? Because I knew that he knew more about Cosmere stuff than I did. And he immediately goes to our bookshelf and just starts tearing into Oathbringer. He's like, this is in here. I know this is in here.
And it's not. I was just completely wrong. I thought this was 3 books or a book and a half or 2 books later.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's this.
It starts in
early,
this book and then... Yeah.
Which is nuts.
I feel like that's a strong pattern that we've been finding as we're reading is like, wow, this stuff starts early.
Yeah.
Like, this is all thought out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess that seems like an obvious statement now saying it, but like...
Just yanked my headphones.
I saw that. But like, it's just crazy seeing it. Like, you can hear if you hear someone's like, oh yeah, it's like all planned out from the beginning. Yeah, obviously, like, it's an overarching story that's
right.
not, but like seeing it in practice and like rereading it, you really start to appreciate like how well laid out the story is over, and it's so long that like I don't even understand how someone could plan out something.
I need to go back and look at dates of when books were published because in my knowledge, Way of Kings is an 09 book. Question mark.
You would know better than me.
Way of Kings is an 09 book. Question mark. And this stuff is seeds for things that happen, like, without revealing too much, in the middle of Mistborn. Like, Mistborn Era 1 happens, and then there's a story in Ars Arcanum, like the thick book that has Emperor's Soul and like the Elantris stuff and the 11th Metal. It's like and Chris writing about the different systems and stuff. There's a story in there called Mistborn Secret Histories, and it takes place parallel to Mistborn, lightly, is what I'm going to say about it right now. And that shit directly plays into this letter. And that's as deep as I'm going to say that for right now. And when Mike and I get to experience you, and when I get to experience you going through the revelation of what the fuck is going on here, I'm going to shit, come, and piss my pants, maybe cry at the same time. It's going to be beautiful, because I got to see it with Mike loosely. Mike and I were kind of like tying each other as this was going on, and then we were both coming to this like, yo. And then we were really impatient with Secret Histories. When you open up Secret Histories, it says it contains spoilers for Era 1 and light spoilers for Bands of Mourning, which is book 3 of Era 2. And we were like, fuck that shit. We know most of what happens in Era 1. We're starting this. And then you can kind of start it, and there's a clear... It's pretty clear when you're reading it how, like, where the parallel is going on and, like, what point you are at, and if you're going past where you are in the main series, so you can kind of do it parallel with that. I recommend doing Era 1 and then doing a little bit of Secret Histories if you're that kind of gumptious. Like, if you like jumping in there and knowing things before entire things have said. Because the first 2 parts of Secret Histories, if you time those right with how you're going through Mistborn, are just like, yeah, it's just a different way of experiencing that story, in my opinion. And I appreciate, like, I really like knowing that stuff, like background context. If directors leave a movie open-ended, I want to know what the director thinks the ending is, because that's going to be my headcanon. I hate open-endedness. So knowing that Sanderson has this background context going actively out there while the main thing is going, Italian, I really
The audio listeners are not going to get that one.
He's doing jazz hands.
I really enjoy that. and I really need to know all that stuff, which is why I dove into that. But yeah, it's incredible. It is truly incredible.
Before we get sidetracked even more, do we want to start going into what this chapter's about?
Yeah, we haven't even started.
I was just going to final note, because we did some of Secret Histories. You know what the element is. You don't know what the element
but
is,
I know
but
something.
you're familiar with the element. You saw him, you know? you experienced that. So let's get going into chapter 12 of Stormlight, where we know nothing, and none of this is important.
So I believe we're about a third of the way through the book now. Mm-hmm. And now is when we get at the end of these chapters. I think we're about a quarter of the way in when we get introduced to these characters. But we meet Adolin, Dalinar, Elhokar, Sadeas, Wit, and Renarin. Mm-hmm. All in this chapter.
I don't think... Yasna is mentioned. We already know Yasna, but, like, for me, I missed that Yasna and Dalinar were close. And when it's shown, like, their actual relationship is shown later on, I'm like, oh, they're, like, close. They're, like, close niece and uncle. Right?
I loved it.
And I totally missed all the parts in here where they talk about, like, Yasna taking the board and Yasna reading to them what it is, and, like, Yasna being involved with this whole thing.
Right.
Like, I missed that the first time, and I really enjoy Dalinar and Yasna's relationship. I'm just going to throw that out there.
So, getting back to what happens in this chapter. So, I think it starts from Adolin's perspective.
Yeah.
And he is observing his father, Dalinar, as Dalinar's kind of escorting the king, Elhokar, on this hunt for a great shell, which is apparently a thing that happens sometimes. They go hunt down a great shell, and in this case, it's so I think I missed this the first time too. There's like different types of great shells, and a chasm fiend is a type of great shell,
Right. Okay.
a really big one.
Yeah.
So they're hunting a chasm fiend.
I don't think we've said this, by the way, but we're spoiling. I might cut this into the beginning of the episode, but we're spoiling shit.
At this point, this is what, episode 4?
Yeah. No, this is 6. Warbreaker was 5, I think.
Warbreaker was 4, I thought.
You, me,
Warbreaker was
Mike,
5. Yeah. I think Mike came on third.
Oh, you're
Jenna,
right. Yeah.
Warbreaker.
We did 2, and
Here.
then, okay. Yeah, so this is episode 5 of the...
Yeah, if you don't understand by this point, it's your own fault. Sorry, but not sorry.
It's a reread podcast.
Spoiling.
You should
the
have already
shit out
read
of
it.
this shit.
You know what's really funny about that is my friend Wolf, who's reading, or he's listening to the podcast. He hasn't read any of these books, and he doesn't have any plan.
He's just bulling.
he just likes listening to it. I'm
Another
like,
thing
"All right."
that's funny is that I'm being meaner about the spoilers for the audience than I am to you guys. Like, we'll just spoil shit if you know it, but if you don't know it, we'll kind of keep it on the down low.
That's their fault.
It
They're
is their
not
fault.
on the podcast.
They need to understand and know exactly what Sam is consuming, be at Sam's exact level of knowledge.
I think it's less that we're never going to talk about this chapter. It's less that we're concerned about, like, oh, you have to have all of this knowledge going into it. It's more like, look, there's stuff we're going to talk about that you might not, it might be new news to you. And just be, if that's not what you're into.
Like when you're
Like-
Mike and you want to know how to spell Elhokar and you get
And you-
Elhokar die? When does Elhokar die? Elhokar dies?
Mike is so good at spoiling shit for himself. But,
Hey guys, so I know
I think,
Elhokar dies.
well, like
because
what
it's
you were
cool.
saying, the Cosmere as a whole is kind of meant to be like completely non-linearly experienced. Like,
I mean, to that point, the person that this letter is written to is not even a character in published works.
right, it would be actually impossible. You'd have to read different parts of different books at different times to read this. To read the Cosmere chronologically.
I was actually thinking of making a
Chronological, like where that would be insane.
Like a section by section of what books to read to get plot points in the order where it hits the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because we were doing that with Secret Histories, which for you can hit Secret Histories at certain points. But if you cut in Mistborn with Secret Histories, some of those reveals just fucking double hit you. It's crazy. I want to do a reorder like that where you're like, okay, 10 chapters of Stormlight, 2 chapters of Mistborn, go do the entirety of Elantris, come back to Stormlight, now it's Warbreaker.
Yeah, I think the actual order where Elantris would fall, you have to read part 1 of Stormlight and then you go read Elantris.
The entire part 1
Of
of
Stormlight.
book 1.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then you go, because then you get introduced to Hoyd in that.
What introduced
ins-
Hoyd in Elantris?
Instead of getting introduced to him here.
Read Stormlight because Stormlight has the best intro, so now you're in. Then cut Elantris. You get his first, arguably worst book out of the way, Introduction to Hoyd. Straight into Warbreaker, a little bit more Hoyd, good standalone book. Come back to Stormlight. Hoyd's here now. Do part 2 of Stormlight. Cut down to Mistborn Era 1. Now you've got the entirety of Mistborn under your belt. Oh, look, Hoyd's there again. And we come back to Stormlight.
We should work on this. Once I get through Mistborn, that would be fun. Is like try to figure out what the correct reading order.
We can do an episode where we just really fast try to hit all the plot points of every book in chronological order. Just like rapid fire list them out. Okay.
So, should we get back to the chapter? Okay.
Should we start the chapter?
We did start the chapter. We said it's
Barely.
all right. It's always the guest that keeps us on track.
Okay, guys, let's start the chapter.
All right. So, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, they're hunting this chasm fiend. And we kind of get a... Where's my notes? Okay. I can read, I swear. Yeah, I think just from the get-go, it's important that we see Dalinar through Adolin's eyes. That's our first introduction to Dalinar is through his son's eyes, because it sets him up as like this kind of like not inhuman, but like kind of like distant character.
Larger than life.
Right. And it does a really good job of establishing that by not giving us his perspective immediately. We first see him through Adolin. And that's kind of like how you end up viewing him as a character throughout the series, I feel like.
I feel like that leads a lot of credence to the entire is Dalinar insane point of this book, too. Because if you get it just from Dalinar from the get-go, you're going to side with him and be like, no, the visions are real. He's not insane. Getting it from Adolin's side makes this an actual plot point that we have to get through is Dalinar crazy? I mean, my grandfather had mental illness. Maybe Dalinar is just hitting that point.
Right, and that's kind of the next part that happens is Adolin talks about how, I think he literally says is like, oh, my father's losing his mind because he's having these, and he just states that as like a fact. Like, he's just like, he's having these visions and like clearly losing grip. And then we kind of immediately go to Dalinar's perspective. And he's talking about how, I'm scared because I think these visions are from the Almighty. I think I'm literally being talked to by God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which setting it up as Adolin thinking he's going crazy, and then Dalinar saying, I think God is talking to me.
He sounds crazy.
He sounds crazy. And like if it had started with that, you might have just accepted it as like, oh, this is a fantasy thing. Like he's getting visions. So.
Maybe he's talking to God.
Right.
But it's getting Adolin grounds us. Adolin grounds us for this entire Dalinar experience. Like, we got to give enough credit to the fact that Dalinar possibly being crazy is a big point of this book, right? It's not until, and we've only done 4 chapters of this, but I don't think it's until part 3 where we're like, okay, Dalinar is 100% right. Maybe even later. There's a lot of this book that's like, Dalinar is sick, and I love Dalinar, and everyone who says that there's too much Dalinar in this book doesn't get to review it. Sorry, not sorry. But there's
who says that?
I've seen reviews where the book's
crazy.
like 9 out of 10, but too much Dalinar.
That's a crazy statement. Actually, you know what?
No.
Reading this the first time, I might have said the same thing.
Yeah?
Because I mean, we've said it before, like the whole book, we're like, we got to get back to Kaladin and Bridge 4, and like that's what you come back to.
That's fair.
Or I can see people being invested in the Shallan storyline.
I remember not enjoying Adolin the first time.
Really?
Which is surprising because I'm such a huge Adolin stan.
I loved Adolin.
It's because he has a good character arc.
I know, but I remember this part and being like, I don't know, because I kind of sided with him on the Dalinar crazy bit, but I also felt like even if Dalinar is crazy, like stop hammering the doors against your father so much. Like, kind of, he's your father and he's still clearly with it, so listen to him a bit more. Mm-hmm. And then Elhokar just pisses me off in these early parts.
Yeah,
obviously.
And then, so continuing on with this, we kind of see a little bit of like the Alethi royalty and how it functions, and like it's a hunt, but they like have all of these nobles with them, and they're like setting up tents, and like there's this thing that this part I just wrote in my notes, refrigerator fabrial, because they say they get chilled wine that's cooled by like a fabrial that makes things cold. And I was like, they just have refrigerators. That's cool.
I wrote that with Navani being mentioned. Adolin mentions Aunt Navani being at the forefront. I think when he's talking about the great bows.
Yeah.
He talks about Navani. But then the refrigerators are mentioned. And maybe after the hunt, it might not be right here, but it might be after the hunt. They mentioned the warming fabrials too, which I remember being a later thing where like everyone in Urithiru has, instead of fireplaces, they have heating fabrials, and Dalinar is like, damn, I miss fire. I didn't realize.
I think it's like in this
early.
chapter, or it's in the next chapter when we come back to this.
Yeah. They're already mentioned as a thing. And I thought they were a thing in book 3 as new, but no. And then we get Wit riding up to them. And I really like that whole interaction, that first one, because it's Wit and he teases, and he's being teasy, and we get introduced to the concept of a Wit, which I really, really fucking like. Like a king can't lower himself to that, so he keeps a wit as a tool, like he would keep a sword. Just all of that that paragraph is phenomenal. But then the way he teases Renarin, and Adolin catches this and Dalinar doesn't. It's like there's like this whole line about the easiest way to irk Dalinar is to like make fun of Renarin. But like the thing that Wit says about Renarin is that they fucked a bunch of bitches.
Yeah.
That's the joke. Because Wit likes Renarin. He'll fuck with him. It makes Renarin uncomfortable because he doesn't like being the center of attention, but it's not a joke against Renarin's character. It's like, oh, Renarin pulled 2 girls, and I wasn't even going to mention that because it was kind of rude, but, like, if you got to bring it up, man. Like, I love that. He's so kind.
To those that deserve it.
To those that deserve it. Because Sadius, later, after the hunt, Wit and Sadius, yeah.
We'll talk about that when we get to that chapter. But and then I believe this chapter ends with, and I have some more stuff I want to talk about, but I just want to kind of wrap up with this chapter. And I think this ends with the Chull that is like pulling the bait in the chasm. It like starts running, basically. And they realize the bait is missing. And the idea was that they have like a hunting plateau that they're going to use in the Shattered Plains that they're going to draw it up onto, and then they'll fire arrows at it, it'll weaken it, and then they go just kill it.
Right.
And instead, it ends up coming up right by all the people, and they don't have a chance to weaken it. They just have to fight it. But that's kind of how the chapter ends, is the chasm fiend comes out of the chasm, and I think it happens here.
Just another fucking phenomenal example of how this book translates to television so well, because you can see that this entire like 15-20 minute scene of character building, and then the tension happens. The chasm fiend claw, they have the whole, isn't there supposed to be bait on the end of that rope? The chasm fiend goes and it's like 4 chortles over each other, and then the claw comes up and it cuts to black because we switch to Kaladin next. What happened?
Actually, we don't. I think we just continue straight on with. Yeah, we just continue straight on with this.
Oh, we do. We do straight go here.
But some stuff I wanted to talk about this chapter, because that's how it ends. After reading Elantris and coming back and rereading this, and I'm sorry to bring up Elantris again, but I think I'm trashing on the book more than it probably deserves, because I have such a high like standard for like Sanderson books.
Cool. Okay.
And like what I love about Stormlight is the characters. Like that is the main thing that interests me, is the characters are just, I mean, the magic's cool, and like the overarching like conflict is cool, but the characters are what drew me to the story at first.
Yeah.
And this really highlighted, I think, what changed about Sanderson's writing style as he got further away from Elantris and more towards this, is he's able to so succinctly in one chapter just capture like a snapshot of who each character is, and like honestly, like this, you can kind of see the start of their arc and like who they are right now and who they might be able to grow into. So like we get introduced to Adolin. We know he's a bit of a show off. He talks about like putting the ornaments on his armor and stuff.
He likes the finer things in life a bit.
Yeah, he's a bit of a ladies' man, and
but he doesn't understand why the world isn't content to just let him enjoy the small pleasantries.
Yeah. But he cares deeply about his family. He really cares for Renarin. He cares a lot about his dad, and he has a really strong sense of honor and wants to defend his father when people start like talking behind his back and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of see like how that becomes his arc throughout the series, and like I don't know, it's just like it and that's just one of them. We also get introduced to Renarin, and even though there's not that many lines about him, we learn that he's quiet, he's awkward. He gets along well with his brother, but that's about it. He's self-conscious and doesn't like speaking to Wit. So we kind of get a little bit into him, not as much as the other characters, but even still, there's so many characters here that like.
I mean, we get the whole bit with Renarin, and again, it's in the next chapter, so we'll come back to it. But can you speak without saying? Can you speak without saying anything stupid? And he just says anything stupid, like. That is a huge introduction into who Renarin is, and you don't quite get how
accurate,
deep of an insight into him it is right now.
We also get Dalinar, and immediately we know the death of his brother changed him.
Oh, okay, hold on. Cutting you off really quick because I want to talk about this. And another thing about this is on the same line of how phrasing Dalinar through Adolin's perspective grounds this whole "is Dalinar crazy?" Not knowing anything about Gavilar makes the fact that Sadeas and Dalinar care for Elhokar so much more impactful, because we get this entire they care about Elhokar. Elhokar gets an arc. He has a character arc through the books that he's in. And then after Elhokar's gone, then we learn about Gavilar and how Gavilar was kind of a piece of shit, and maybe we shouldn't have cared about Elhokar that much, but we did Elhokar's entire storyline before coming to Gavilar, and that keeps you grounded in the I care about Elhokar. I care about Dalinar caring about Elhokar. He needs to save the fact that Gavilar is a trashy person, because then you don't give a fuck about Elhokar if he's a trashy person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean.
Yeah. So, yeah, we learn a little bit more about Dalinar. We know that he used to be this, like, crazy warrior who, like, conquered all of Althkar. But now he's a lot more cautious of a person, and people are, like, talking behind his back and saying he's not the man who he used to be. And we know he feels he doesn't just feel like angry about his brother being assassinated. He feels personally responsible, which is another huge driving point of his whole character arc. And then we get Elhokar. We learn he's a very insecure king, and he's trying to compensate for what he perceives as his failings, by doing these like stupid things when they're on hunts and stuff. But we also learn that he doesn't have as much power as we think a king might, and because of the way that Alethi society is set up,
Right.
it's a lot less. He's a lot less powerful than we might think a king would be, which is an interesting dynamic.
There's a lot of politics introduced in this.
Right, and we
this
even
chapter.
get a little bit of Sadeas through Adolin's eyes.
Right. As
Like
an eel.
this is one chapter, and we just got like a huge, every single one of these characters has some very specific characterizations to them now.
It might be only as impactful as it is because this is a reread and we're coming back to it and going, wow, this is really true to these characters.
Well, I think that might be because we're analyzing it instead of, I think if you're just reading this, subconsciously, you're getting a picture of these characters in your head and who they are.
Right.
And that makes the story really compelling.
Mm-hmm. But it's also consistent. It's
Right.
not like he was trying to, and we said this with like finding a voice for Kaladin and the earlier things in the earlier episodes, and Kaladin being kind of cringy and stuff. But it's almost like he doesn't have to find a voice for these ones. It's like he knows exactly where they're gonna go, and they are so consistent to this first drop of like their minds and who they are, and they stay. Even if they don't stay and they change, it's still important. It's not like they totally leave this first introduction we have to them. This is part of their arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have character growth. But it's like natural. And it makes sense.
Because they've been established so well from their very first introduction, from literally the first chapter.
It is very impressive.
Yeah. And it's just like looking at that next to Elantris. It's like what do you learn about the characters when they're introduced in Elantris? Like you learn literally nothing about in the intro when they're talking about Raoden. Like he wakes up and he's an Elantrian, like that. You don't learn anything from that.
No,
it's just a
didn't
scene
know
of him
I was
being,
even supposed to be sympathetic towards Raoden.
Exactly. I was like,
how most of these books open, especially the Mistborn opening, is like the first character you're not supposed to like.
right.
Like the first character is supposed to guide you towards the character that's actually moving the story. So when Elantris starts, I'm like, I don't give a shit that Raoden's sick. He's probably just a throwaway character that we're going to ignore for the person that he passes on the street as he goes to Elantris. But then
that might just be our Sanderson bias
Exactly.
coming into it. So
I also, because we already technically finished this chapter, I want to throw in I have it written in all caps that Dalinar notes that Hoyd knows important things. Or Adolin. I think Adolin mentions it in this one that Hoyd seems to know.
He's very connected to the
things.
political goings on of
I think the wording is he seems to know things that he shouldn't.
It's
or something like that.
Lines, yeah.
Important things. And like boy Adolin, do you not understand how fucking right you are? I can't wait for that chapter in 2 where Shallan, Kaladin, and Adolin are in the cart, and Kaladin.
I love that scene.
Kaladin goes to sit next to the driver. He's like, "You," and then Shallan and Adolin get out of the cart. They're like, "You," and they're like, "Wait, you know him? You know we?" Great scene.
All right. Anything else for this chapter before we move on?
No.
Cool. I think that's going to be one of our that chapter. I think that's one of the strongest chapters in the book that we've gotten up to this point.
And it's followed up by another incredibly strong chapter.
Yeah. This one's more of just like an action sequence and less of like we know who these characters are now. Now we're going to see them do things.
But this one holds a special place in my heart. Because this is the chapter that when I read it, I was like, oh, this is a TV show. The 10 Heartbeats, dude, the opening to this chapter is a fucking trailer for Stormlight. It's Dalinar. It's whoever the fuck you cast as Dalinar going 10. And then a couple quick scenes. Chasm Fiend screams.
And you have like
screaming.
the heartbeat in the background.
You have the heartbeat in the background. People running and screaming. 9. Dalinar puts his hand out to the side. You see mist start to come. Another fucking crash comes to the background. 8. This is the trailer to Stormlight right here. so perfectly in the book. It needs no adaptation. You need to make this scene for scene and you have a trailer. It's phenomenal.
We're so back.
We're so back. Oh no.
Don't lock the beers off again.
Oh no.
Not another spill.
Oh, is your notebook wet?
No, I'm fine. Do not worry. Okay, 10 heartbeats.
10 heartbeats. So now that we're back, do you want to give the chapter 13 epigraph another quick read real quick? Because I have something I want to talk about here.
I realize that you are probably still angry. That is pleasant to know. Much as your perpetual health, I have come to rely upon your dissatisfaction with me. It is one of the Cosmere's greatest constants, I should think.
So this might be the first mention of, I think this is the first mention of the Cosmere we get in the book. And it establishes it as an in-universe, well, it is the universe. Mm-hmm. And this is the first mention we get of this being connected. So whatever this letter is about, it's about something outside of this specific story that's tied in, but there's something bigger going on here. And it's kind of huge that we're getting this in like the little epigraphs at the start of the chapter. Now I can't stop saying it. Now that we know what the word is.
I know. It's also
epigraph.
It's just crazy coming back to this. It feels like a unique opportunity that I got as a person to be able to start with Stormlight, do everything else, and then come back and go, oh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That feels unique, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because you don't pay attention to the epigraphs, or at least I didn't as much, not on my first read.
I didn't know there was anything but death rattles in the first book.
I feel like because there's so many books in the Cosmere, and that if you're a fan of one series in the Cosmere, you're probably reading other books in it, that I don't know how often people reread these books. Like there's certain maybe people reread them a lot. I don't really know, but
I personally don't reread books.
Right.
This is a first.
I very rarely reread books. Unless I really like, I feel like there's a couple books I've read a couple times, but it was more like when I was like in high school or whatever, I was reading a lot more. Now I am reading a lot more again now, which feels great, but it feels like there's a lot in here that's like specifically for like those people that want to go back and really delve. It's just so rewarding to like go back and I just minor tangent, but
a lot of Easter eggs.
I forget where he.
It's not even like Easter eggs though. It's like yes, it's an Easter egg, but like it's so for the people who really want to know about the greater story that's going on. There's so many things in here that point you towards it, and like it just feels so cohesive. Like even me not reading a lot of the Cosmere, like it's cool that it's this cohesive,
right?
Like on reread.
I forget where it's written, whether it's in Ars Arcanum or it's the forward or afternote for a book, but at some point there is a note from Sando where he goes and talks about the idea for the Cosmere and it being something that he's been dreaming up, it along with Hoyd, just as the idea of someone who is lightly in stories, but a part of a bigger picture than the stories will tell you. Like someone who travels between worlds that aren't connected and connects them through him. Like that's where they're connected. Most of these stories are connected through Hoyd.
Or Hoyd talking to other characters.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's all through Hoyd.
And he talks about the like not knowing how deep to go with it and tentatively putting Hoyd in Elantris and like being very tentative about talking about the bigger picture in one of these books, and then the reception of us Sanderson readers being like, no, we need to know the bigger picture. Right. The fuck's going on? And he's like, oh, okay, I get to sprinkle these in a bit heavier than I thought I did. I thought people wouldn't really,
especially heavy in this series.
Yeah. So. Yeah, this is the culmination of it. I feel like, and this is definitely untrue. I'm saying a sentence I know to be untrue, but I feel like you cannot fully enjoy Stormlight without the bigger picture. I feel like you
can enjoy it very heavily because I did.
Sure, but
this
you
is
can't
the first Sanderson
fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
You can fully enjoy Elantris without the bigger picture. You can fully, maybe, I don't know, I'm still getting deeper into part 2, and part 2 is getting deeper into the Cosmere dependent stuff, but you can fully enjoy Mistborn part 1 without any deeper knowledge. You can fully enjoy Warbreaker as a standalone book. Stormlight?
I don't know, though, because Warbreaker ties in so heavily to this with specific characters and...
But I feel like you can
it
fully
is before
enjoy
this,
Warbreaker.
So, yeah.
I feel like Stormlight, to fully enjoy Stormlight, you need Warbreaker.
Right, because we're like
the
so
other way around.
We're so clearly getting more excited about it now, going back, having this previous knowledge.
Yeah. It's just, there's a funny little relationship between everything in this world that I'm jealous of. This is phenomenally crafted, and this is something that I wish I was capable of doing. And I'm sure a lot of people wish they were capable of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Back to the chapter.
Back to the chapter. Thank you, Ananya. So, chapter 13, 10 Heartbeats. This is when this very rarely happens with these chapters where we get 2 chapters back to back. I think we said this in the last, like one of the previous episodes when it happened, and now it's happening again. So maybe it isn't as rare as we're remembering.
Right.
But
we do get 2 back-to-back continuations of what the fuck's going on.
So the Chasm Fiend comes out of the chasm and immediately kills a bunch of Dalinar's men, who are kind of by extension the king's men, because Dalinar is protecting the king with his men. And this is...
Someone get Taron Edgerton up here. Kingsman? No, that was bad. We're cutting that one.
No, you're not.
Keep it in, please.
All right, continue.
Yeah, so the Chasm Fiend comes out, and it's described as like the biggest one they've ever seen. And they didn't have time to weaken it, and so the fight begins immediately, and Elhokar, just being an idiot, charges directly at it, not even on his horse. He just starts running at it, and Dalinar is kind of forced to just run after him to try to protect him.
I also think... Sorry, I'm chopping this up.
No, you're good. That's basically the idea of this chapter, just to finish the summary real quick, is they fight the Chasm Fiend.
Right.
And a bunch of stuff happens, and Elhokar's an idiot for parts of it. And
Dalinar's
they end
sick for parts of it.
Yeah, they end up killing the Chasm Fiend.
Yeah.
So,
but
at great loss.
At great loss. But the real meat of the chapter, in my opinion, is the little interactions. It's Elhokar charging at the thing, and then Dalinar getting his bearings, realizing that his Chad of a son ran immediately for his horse because Adolin knows what the fuck to do in any situation. Gallant, our first introduction to Rashadiums and how sick the fucking Rashadiums are, comes up to Dalinar ready to go.
While he's running.
Dalinar's running. It's like that fucking... I'm pretty sure it's a thing in Assassin's Creed Odyssey where if you whistle for your horse as you're running, the horse will come up and you'll auto-mount it as it comes up beside you. Makes me think of that. It's just Dalinar's fucking booking, and Gallant comes up. He's like, hey, bud, you want to go a little faster? Just next to him. Yeah. Like, the relationship between... I don't even think all of the Rashadiums. Dalinar and Gallant.
Adolin and Sureblood, too. Gets a lot of screen time.
Dalinar and Gallant are my favorite.
Page time.
I
don't know.
But yeah, it's these little things. It's Adolin knowing what to do. It's Elhokar not knowing what to do. It's Dalinar resigning himself to what he has to do. It's all of those interactions that make this action scene more than an action scene.
And I love how much Dalinar trusts Adolin. Like, that's such a...
That is really important.
Yeah.
And
Adolin trusts Dalinar, too. Like, it's...
When they describe them as doing the big ring around, taking out legs, and they swap with each other, it's just like damn,
like they know without even talking.
They're father and son right there.
Yeah,
those are my boys.
And like I feel like you wouldn't get that from the way Adolin talks about Dalinar, in a sense.
No, this kind of takes you into that.
Yeah.
Up until this point, it's not clear. I mean, it's clear that Adolin loves him, but it's not clear how well they work together at this point in what Dalinar is going through. And then it's like talking. My dad might be going crazy. Shit hits the fan. They're fucking in it. They're locked in. Yeah. They know what's going on.
I feel like that's something I don't see a lot in stories in general, and maybe it's just a blind spot of mine. But it's cool to see like a father and son, or a parent and a child, like not only have like a parent-child relationship, but they like work as a team. Mm-hmm. It's cool. It's just cool.
It is cool.
They're like equals on
they
like a field.
They are on in specific situations. Yeah. They view each other as like partners, and then others they have very specific parts of the relationship where Adolin will it's like just kind of bend to whatever Dalinar thinks is best, and like there's respect there, and Dalinar shows respect for his son too.
They have a good relationship.
Yeah,
like,
it's that core. Exact line, Sam, with what you just said, where it's like, Adolin doesn't think anything that Dalinar's doing outside of the combat right now makes any sense, but Adolin was told by his commanding officer to be in uniform and follow the codes, so there is no question that goes into that. There's no rebellious son going into that. I can compartmentalize my rebellious son-father relationship and the fact that my father is my commanding officer and I will do what I am told no matter what. It's the fact that Adolin is mature enough to make this decision at fucking who knows how old he is. I don't think we were mentioned. And Elhokar is 27 years old and does Elhokar things that really makes you respect Adolin.
Yeah.
I thought Elhokar was younger
than Adolin?
Yeah,
well,
I guess
like in general.
Elhokar's 27, I believe.
Yeah, that surprised me.
That surprised you?
Yeah.
I thought
he seems younger. He seems like early 20s. I don't know.
He's a baby.
He's older than Adolin, so.
Yeah.
But Adolin still has that, like, kind of, I mean, there's parts where he kind of rebels against what Dalinar's saying. It's just, like you said,
he'll never take it too far.
Right.
Adolin, he's respectful.
At this point.
The dynamics kind of change, though. I feel like we've already talked about this a little bit, about how Way of Kings feels different than the rest of Stormlight. But, like, when we get to the point where Dalinar is a bondsmith and the king of Urithiru and stuff, and Adolin will rebel against his father and stuff, like, it just feels like a different story by the time that we've hit that point. Right now, we feel a little more grounded, and it's like, okay, yeah, it does feel like Adolin, like, is being a good person by respecting his father, and it feels like they're all like, I don't even know what I'm trying to get at, because I don't feel like the world becomes less grounded when all of the big picture stuff starts happening. But just something about the small picture of this book and the fact that there aren't gods trying to kill them makes everything feel a little bit more simple. You know what I mean?
It's
I get that.
it's the most well paced, like thousands upon thousands of pages I've ever.
Probably, yeah.
That's really what it is that you can go from this into a natural progression of over 4 books. It turns into this universe scale conflict or world scale conflict, basically, maybe universe scale. So, another one of those like kind of small interactions that I thought was really cool was there's a part when the Chasm Fiend is like about to like kill Dalinar, like he gets very close to like the claws coming out or whatever, and one of the great bow arrows hits it, and Dalinar looks over and Sadeas like salutes him, and then he salutes back, and the line just says, "They were not friends. They did not like each other."
They have to make it clear.
and I love it. It sets up their relationship like this.
It takes that is the start for the whole elevation of it in the next chapter.
Yep.
When they're standing side by side. It is the perfect introduction to that.
Yeah. And you kind of learn as this book goes on that Sadeas really kind of, if this book was told from like an Alethi centric, like a Light Eyes centric perspective, Sadeas is like the perfect Alethi. Like he is like what all of their doctrines embody, and like he loves competition, and like it's all, I mean, it's built into their religion that like the people that fight well enough and die in battle will go try to reclaim the Tranquilin Halls with the heralds. And it's seeing it from Dalinar's perspective because he was changed by Gavilar's death, and through his son's perspective because he sees Dalinar changing. It's interesting. You see Sadeas as an antagonist.
Yeah.
Because if this was told from the perspective of what are essentially the main characters, the Alethi, you would see Sadeas. It would Sadeas is like this warrior who is really embodying this idea of competition, and like
if book 1 was about the flashbacks Dalinar has in 3, like if book 1 was about Gavilar, Dalinar, and Sadeas taking over Elhokar, Sadeas would have been a protagonist.
Yeah.
If we met Dalinar when he was still like the Blackthorne,
Yeah.
like it would have been.
And we wouldn't have liked Dalinar.
Yeah.
Right.
The way that you're handed information in this series is fucking genius.
Yeah.
It
You're
truly
really confused
is.
for a lot of it.
Yeah.
I was really confused when I was reading.
This book is definitely like it's kind of hard to get through on first read.
There's just a lot. Like we were talking about the characters and how they were like introduced, and it's great. Like the character building is great, but it was a lot. I think I remember.
Yeah.
It is a lot. It's a lot of fake words.
Yeah, and you get introduced to so many people at once. It's like
what we were just saying: Renarin, Adolin, Wit, Dalinar,
what, 6
Sadeas.
people?
There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
For if you're not doing a reread, being like, "Oh, this is where all these people appear."
like this is exciting now, but
I think we need to talk about the best scene,
okay,
which is when Dalinar sees Elhokar gets knocked down, and the Chasm Fiend's claw starts to come crashing, and it describes
we get it
him,
from Adolin's perspective,
right?
Which I think is important. But continue.
We see him like dodging all of the limbs and stuff, and he jumps over one of the claws, and then he stands above Elhokar, and the claw comes down, and he doesn't have his shard blade,
no,
because he got knocked off his horse and he had to run over here, and he catches the claw, and it describes like the crowd, like because there's a crowd watching this at this point, and they're like silent, and they realize like, and Adolin talks about like he realizes he's seeing the Blackthorne, he's seeing who his father used to be, and it's like it's just a really powerful scene.
it is also the perfect ending to the trailer. Let me just say, that's a phenomenal shot to leave.
Or
the
just not him
trailer
catching
off
it,
with.
just the claw coming down.
and it going black.
I don't know. Him on one knee holding the claw up, to me is really powerful.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be contact. I really like that. Because it hits and he has to go down to one knee. Like that's part of the motion is that he can't quite catch it all the way. It takes him down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he catches it.
But so yeah, he saves Elhokar, and then that leads into them being able to. Adolin takes that opportunity to cut away another one of the legs, and that's when the rest of its legs fail, and it falls over, and Elhokar manages to kill it. So it's kind of
take the gem heart.
Yeah,
and get the biggest emerald they've ever seen.
I also have a note that says Elhokar is so dumb, and that there's
I have one that says Elhokar is a fool.
There's a lot more death in this chapter than I remember there being too. Like they got messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot about the claw just coming down and crushing like a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is more brutal than I remember it being.
Yeah. So. I wonder if the Master of the Hunt's going to be punished. I don't think we talk about him.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a normal fantasy society, they'd be like, well, it was your job to know where the bitch was, so off with your head. You know what I mean? And he was such a chill dude. He was first non. He could have married into a Light-Eye family.
That's true. Yeah, he just keeps sprinkling in parts about the hierarchy of Alethi society too here. So the writing is so efficient.
Yeah.
Like every single word is important. I don't know if we talked about it on pod, but just me and Jack, we've talked about this before, where it just feels like every word you're reading has so much weight, and there's so many of them. There's so many words, and somehow all of them feel so important. And I did not get that from Elantris. So to keep dragging Elantris, but like there's a lot of wasted words in that book. And then you get to the epilogue, where it talks about the Mad King, and you're like, or the Mad Prince, and you're like, this book could have been worse. It's crazy.
That's the saving grace, that it was better.
I was like, if the Mad Prince had been in this book, I would have stopped reading it.
If the Mad Prince was in the book, I wouldn't have liked Hrathen. And I've talked about this a little bit with Mike, but I don't want to get too into Elantris. But the Mad Prince genuinely destroys everything Hrathen stands for, and the fact that Hrathen works for him or with him works with him to further his goals in the scenes that Hrathen and him and Eton are in that little extra bit. Everything about that with him and Hrathen made me be like, oh, Hrathen is incompetent.
Yeah, because he's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes sacrifices he doesn't make in the actual book with Eton. Mm-hmm. And it changes Hrathen's character dramatically.
Who I'll remind you is the only good part of that book.
Exactly. So, I like that Eton wasn't there. But I do like the scene with Hrathen and Eton and the stones, and I like how that came back in Warbreaker.
I hated that. I hated it.
Really? I feel like it worked better in Elantris than it did in Warbreaker, with Hrathen being the one that's like, what the fuck is going on? And Eton being like, you said you've never played this before. And he's just an insane person.
It was really funny.
I thought it was way better in Elantris than how it showed up.
It's funny, I guess, but like I don't even think it's that funny. Like, what's the joke?
The joke is Eton's fucking nuts, dude.
That's a lazy joke. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
You know, it's a good execution of that trope.
What?
Boomy from Avatar. That is how that's done well.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Do we have anything else we want to talk about with this chapter?
I have a line that says, Adolin is always ready. We love Adolin. And I just have a feeling that talks about how when Dalinar catches the claw, Adolin was like fucking... Because there's that whole point where Adolin is like, where the fuck am I? Before he even knows where he is, he starts summoning his blade. And then he sees everything and he's like, oh, wait, the kingdom's about to fall apart. And then his bat appears. And then he catches it. And because he's already summoning his blade, it comes in as soon as he gets his bearing, and then he fucking takes out the last leg. It's just like he's just so in control of himself.
It kind of highlights how like proficient of a warrior he is, and how proficient of a warrior Dalinar is. Where he's not just thinking about the battle they're immediately in.
Yeah,
he's like he sees the situation he's immediately like, oh, if this happens, the kingdom falls apart.
Yes.
Like, that's the result. It's not that we lose the battle. It's that this has much greater implications, and that is his motivation for continuing.
And, you know, that comes into why the character building, drip feeding information is so good. Because One of my favorite Adolin scenes, and I promise you this is important, is when he goes to save the honor spren in book 4.
Yep.
And he does the dancing. And a worse writer, the Adolin we see in this scene would never have been that Adolin. We would have gone through such a strange, weird arc with Adolin that it feels like he became a totally different character. But that Adolin is hidden in this Adolin, and you can see that through the kingdom's about to fall apart. I'm summoning my shard blade before I even know the fuck that I got knocked on my ass. Like, you can see that Adolin through the cracks of this Adolin. But a slightly worse writer wouldn't have been able to do that. You know, it is a phenomenal. Like 4 books later, you see the gemstone hidden in this boy come out. The gem heart come out. I just love my dirty blonde boy so much. That's the empty one. Oh, all right, keep going.
I think that's it for this chapter. That's really all I wanted to talk about. I really like the scene with Dalinar and Sadeas saluting each other.
Yeah,
it's great. And just the line, they were not friends. They did not like each other. And then it does follow that up immediately. Like, new paragraph says, but they would protect Elhokar.
Yeah.
And then that becomes important for some reason that we don't know yet. So,
And then we go to Payday.
Payday, chapter 14.
And then we go to Payday with my favorite power move. My second favorite power move in the whole series.
Yep.
My favorite power move is Yasna dueling. In book 4. That's my favorite power move. But my second favorite power move is Kaladin going Gaz and getting paid and then giving it back. Yeah. That's my second favorite power move.
Well, there's another good power move in this too that we'll talk about. But yeah, so chapter 14, Payday. We get back to Kaladin in Bridge 4. And this is, as I just want to remind everyone where we were when we left off. Kaladin had just come back from the Honor Chasm and was going to kill himself. Mm-hmm. And Syl brought him the leaf. Do you remember what the leaf is called?
Something Bane.
It's something
Wolfsbane. I feel like I'm making that up.
That's a thing.
Is Wolfsbane a real plant?
I think so.
Something Bane. She brought him a plant. Doesn't matter. It never comes back up.
It's a poison leaf.
It's a poison leaf.
It literally never comes back.
And it kind of reminds him of who he is, and he decides to go back to the bridge crew, and he resolves to take command. He kind of bullies Gaz into giving him command of the bridge crew. Mm-hmm. And we start chapter 14. He wakes up, and he tries to wake everyone else up. And he says that he's going to... everyone better get out, or he's going to drag everyone out one by one. Still no response. And he goes over to Moash, which I think is great that Moash is the first person that he goes to. It's just, so good.
For all of you Moash did nothing wrong stands out there, go to hell. Fuck this boy.
No honor spren for Moash.
No honor spren for Moash. And we get Rock.
We do get Rock as well.
Rock laughs when he's like, not a single person in Bridge 4 is going to die from here on out.
Yeah.
You just get in the background.
Sick lowlander.
You think you can do this thing?
Yeah, so he goes over to Moash and picks him up and punches him in the stomach.
Yeah.
Which is the power move I thought you were talking about.
No, I don't care about that.
That one's also
Moash
pretty great.
deserves to be punched in the stomach. We just don't know it yet.
Kaladin literally puts him on his shoulder and
he
carries
punches
him,
and then like as he's keeling over,
he scoops him.
I had a really hard time imagining this. I have to imagine it's the momentum of Moash ducking down from being punched in the gut. He takes him backwards. So he sweeps him out from the shin side, kind of. So as Moash keels over, he kind of puts his shoulder in there and sweeps his ankles to get him on. I don't know, man.
I was trying to picture
I want to
this
know
too.
what Sando had in his fucking head when he
I think
described
he just
this.
And he just punches him. Moash bends over, and Kaladin kind of bends down and like.
Yeah, but it says
have to bend far.
It specifically says he goes for his legs to get him over his shoulder.
Yeah, he kind of does like a tackle move. Like he goes under, like he punches him and he just goes under.
Okay.
Or maybe when he's like getting up a little bit, he goes under. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he tries to motivate Bridge 4. He has his whole speech, and they all kind of just laugh him off. He goes over to Gaz.
Yeah, hold on, wait. There's they all laugh him off because Moash goes, Gaz, do we have to listen to this cuck? And Gaz is like, not right now. And then Kaladin realizes that was progress. Getting them out of bed was progress. I made progress, and what I wrote down is Cal realizes he made progress. Let's go torment Gaz, because that's next on the to-do list. We have progress. It's Gaz time.
Do you want to describe the Gaz scene? I know you like that.
I mean,
one,
we just get. Well, first of all, does it start like this? I think it does start like this. When Gaz is like, no, you don't have to listen to him, and then they all break apart. I see it as Kaladin watching his people leave. He kind of looks at Gaz, does a double take at his people leaving, and then just starts immediately over towards Gaz. Gaz does a little jump backwards and then scuttles off. Cal has his little conversation with Syl. Can you go find where he is? And then he comes around the back and taps Gaz on the shoulder. I think that could have been done a little more.
I like that he does kind of just use Syl as like a spy drone.
Yeah. I was really hoping, because I didn't remember how this went out, so I was really hoping Kaladin would just kneel behind Gaz and go like, who are we looking for?
Yeah.
But,
Syl is actually in the TV show is just going to be replaced by a DJI Mavic drone that follows Cal.
Syl is just a drone. Kaladin is actually schizophrenic. He's not talking to anybody.
That's what everyone else thinks.
I mean, yeah. And then Cal does the power move I mentioned. He makes Gaz pay him all 5. Gaz pays him 4, and he's like, Gaz, give me the last one. And Gaz is like, but, and he's like, Gaz. And so Gaz pays him, and then he gives it back. And he's like, you remember where this comes from?
Yeah, that is a great scene. I do love that. And then he goes over to the carpentry area of the war camp.
Before that. Kaladin is smart. I thought it took Kaladin a little bit to figure out why the bridgemen weren't punished, but no, Kaladin knows.
Yeah.
He realizes that you can't punish the bridgemen because running bridges is the worst thing that they can do. I feel like that took him a little bit, in my mind, it took him a little bit to figure that out. I guess what I'm thinking of is it takes him a bit to figure out the Gemheart game. He doesn't quite get the game for a bit, but he figured this out real quick. He's like, you can't punish us.
He doesn't figure that out for a long time, that reason that the bridgemen
kind of
exist.
Know, as dramatic irony because of what we learned from Adolin.
In the next chapter.
Yeah. Like and Adolin talks about the game. Yeah. Adolin's or Dalinar, maybe both of them, are upset by the game.
There's a whole argument between. We can talk about that more when we get there. Okay. But yeah,
I don't have a lot more for this. You were going to talk about him working out, though.
Yeah. So he stops by the carpentry area where they make the bridges, and he asks, "Can I borrow this?" And it's like one of the handholds, basically, with like a big plank on it. Mm-hmm. And he just starts running. And it gathers a little bit of a crowd. They're like, what the hell is this guy doing?
All the other bridges are jeering at him.
Yeah. And then there's a couple people from Bridge 4. Teft is one specifically mentioned.
Rock is also specifically
Rock's also mentioned that are watching him in like awe. And they're like, what is going on?
What the fuck's his name? Sajish. Is Sajish mentioned as, not by name, but as like a...
That's not his name, is it?
Sigzil. I'm combining Sazid.
Yeah.
Is Sigzil mentioned as just one of his ethnicity?
Makabaki?
As a Makabaki man? I feel like Sigzil is mentioned as one of the Watchers, but they call him a Makabaki.
Yeah.
He's the one who explains that Rock like made a bet.
Oh, that's him? I thought that was just Rock and Teft talking.
No, Rock, he's like, because Rock is like going and picking up the plank, and Sigzil's like, oh, he made a bet about you using a lighter plank to impress us.
Okay. That's Sigzil.
Yeah, that's Sigzil.
Okay.
And then Cal goes and like rests in an alley for a bit. And then we get an interesting scene with Syl. We get a little bit of Syl character.
Incredibly existential scene with Syl.
Yes. And Syl is like, why am I... She's having a crisis about learning things.
Yeah.
She's like, why do I know what death is? Why do I know what lying is?
You were going to kill yourself, weren't you? Yeah. And I brought you a poison flower.
I just love Syl. Syl's so good.
Yeah.
But that's the meat of this chapter. It's just Kaladin trying to gain control over the bridge crew and bring a little bit of hope back to them. And it's a new experience for him because he's never had men who are blatantly insubordinate before. He says just inexperienced. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then the decoy.
The decoy.
I have a lot of notes for the decoy.
Am I stupid? Why is this one called the decoy?
Because Dalinar tells Adolin the role Sadeas played in.
Oh, yeah.
He was the decoy.
Right.
I was like, that's like the whole end of the chapter.
Which actually, I want to talk about this for. Well, anyway, this chapter, like, not a ton like happens in this chapter. We get a lot of exposition.
We don't really have to summarize this. We can just talk about the bits.
It's the aftermath of the battle
Yeah.
with the Chasm Fiend. And we kind of get some conversation between Elhokar talking to Sadeas and Dalinar, Wit interjecting and kind of making fun of Sadeas, which is a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the whole potential plot to assassinate the king. At least that's what Elhokar thinks. Or we think that he thinks.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah.
And this is when we really dive into Adolin and Dalinar's relationship and how they see each other, I think.
We also get the first mention of Evie and the mystery that
Or not a
surrounds
mention of Evie, I guess.
Evie.
Yeah.
We get the first mention of Dalinar not being able to fucking remember anything about his wife. We get a mention of weird spren around the Great Shell corpse, which I'm assuming to be void spren.
I think so.
don't
They're
really
arrows.
think we talk about it more than this.
Does it say? I don't think it says they're red.
I don't think it really describes them.
It doesn't.
It says they're arrow shaped.
It does say they're arrow shaped.
Yes.
Okay, well that's all we get.
Which is void spren shaped.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But that's I don't remember the void spren being tied to the chasm fiends at all.
Yeah. Maybe this doesn't go anywhere, or maybe I missed an entire thing that I'm going to find on this read.
Yeah, I think this is going to come up somehow.
And then I have Elhokar struggles to see the bigger picture. I don't know why. What does Elhokar struggle to see the bigger picture with here?
Who says that? Does Dalinar say that?
No, I wrote that.
Oh.
It must just be with the fact that they mention about how Elhokar is too involved with the day-to-day happenings of the Kholinar princedom, which makes Dalinar look like an over...
I don't even know if it's that. I think it's that Dalinar thinks that this war is actively doing damage to the unity of Alethkar.
Oh, okay. And Elhokar's like, no, this is the Vengeance Pact. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody.
But it is turned into just a way to
make money, basically.
Make money, yeah. Really, maybe this story is just an allegory for the American military complex.
Did Brennan Lee Mulligan write this? It's just capitalism is the big bad guy.
Surprise!
It's capitalism.
It's capitalism.
I have good.
It was me. It's Scooby Doo. They just pulled a mask off.
It's just a dollar sign. Fucking, I have good, Dalinar. You shouldn't be thinking like an.
The concept of private property was the villain the whole time.
Private property is essentially theft. Bo Burnham said it first and last. No one said it since. Adolin snaps and Dalinar shuts it down. I think it's the Adolin talking. Dalinar says, "Okay." Adolin starts saying the same thing again. He's like, "You've made your point, son.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that." I think that's what that note's from. And then really really quick, we get because Renarin is such a good brother, and Sadeas is such a piece of shit. I think the Renarin is such a good brother is Adolin going to summon his blade, and Renarin puts his hand on his shoulder, as he does a lot in these first couple chapters. Oh, that's what it is. It's because we move into the Dalinar actually handling a situation.
Yeah.
Surely you would not have been that foolish. Surely I misheard you.
Yeah. When he's when Sadeas insults Renarin.
Renarin, yeah.
That is the one way to rile Dalinar up.
Yeah. And Dalinar responds.
Yeah.
Sadeas insults Renarin, and Dalinar stops being a good little guard dog and responds to the insult and is the Blackthorne because that's a fucking cold line.
Yeah.
And that's how you deal with Sadeas. You make him look like a fool. Yes, you must have misheard. So far, I would never say that. Kind of shit.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about... Okay, one thing that I thought was kind of weird about... Maybe it's not weird. I don't know. Okay. This doesn't get brought up much after this book. There's I think Sanderson was still kind of trying to figure out what kind of fantasy book he wanted, if it wanted to be dark and gritty or and it definitely is at points, but it feels a little bit like Game of Thronesy here, where there's a lot of talk about when Wit is insulting Sadeas. He's like, "Oh, you have to pay for..."
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of surprised it came across as a little crude for a Sanderson book, because I feel like that doesn't happen that often.
It's all of the it's sluts. I'll say it right now. It's sluts. It's because all of his books have in-universe swear words, and then we just came out with the "you fuck sluts."
Yeah,
it just feels a little out of
it feels out of place, and I don't know. It was fun. It was kind of funny, the joke of insults versus insluts. I was like, all right, that's kind of clever, but I feel like in the later books
we don't use
this kind of
kind of wording like that.
I don't know if slut shaming happens again.
I don't think it does.
I don't know. Maybe for Adolin.
If you're gonna slut shame someone,
man.
slut shame a man though.
Yeah, it feels a little. And I don't want. I'm not trying to be oh, this is so crude.
It did feel out of place.
It feels out of place.
It feels
more than anything.
cruder than the rest of them.
Right.
Because even in that, what I would say is the most dramatic Wit making fun of someone, what I mentioned earlier, where Yasna duels the other guy.
Yep.
The before that, where Wit's just ripping into him, it's still even though you beat your children. You beat your children because you can't fight anybody else.
Yeah.
That isn't as crude as the insult.
Right. This feels like it's
just
below what Wit should be doing for
And to be frank,
it's not that clever.
To be frank, I don't know how I want to say this because I love Wit so much, but he's not that clever in
this part.
All of the books. Up until this part, Wit gets really good in later Stormlight.
Yes,
even in Mistborn and stuff. There's a scene in Mistborn Secret Histories. There's a scene with straight Wit, where he's not pretending to be anyone else. It's just Saphadrius, and the insult when he insults that's such a weak insult that he gives. It's damn, is that really my Hoyd? He gets so much better in Mistborn that everything in Stormlight, that everything before the later Stormlight books is kind of wait, what are you doing?
It kind of caught me off guard because they don't talk about I don't know, prostitution or anything later. It's not a part and that's kind of in a lot of fantasy settings, it is a big thing. I think that's a little bit of the fault of Game of Thrones, and it's not even Game of Thrones' fault because that's the universe it's setting up.
Right.
It's trying to be this dark and gritty setting.
You wouldn't want to live here.
Right.
No matter what role you had in this world, you wouldn't want to live here.
and this has never felt like that.
Right.
And it felt out of place here a bit.
Because even when he slut shames, I guess, Adolin, or ladies' man, it's never he says anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. It was
I feel like it is half. Okay, it's thirds. It's a third. This is the first book. I don't know where I'm going to take this. Maybe he is like this. Maybe he tones it down a little bit. It's a third. Sadeas deserves that. Adolin doesn't deserve to be slut-shamed as much as
No.
Sadeas deserves to be slut-shamed.
Because Adolin's not really
like, Adolin deserves the light of it, and Sadeas deserves to be said in sluts.
Yeah.
And it's a third, I want to make the insults in sluts joke.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is pretty funny.
like, that's half of the reason it's here is because that's a good joke.
Yeah.
Maybe
But you know what?
Brandon Sanderson just
You
won.
brought it up earlier. That sounds like a Bo Burnham joke.
You know what? You know what? Fuck Tom Hiddleston as the fan cast for Hoyd. I want to see Bo Burnham as Hoyd.
I don't know.
Crossover?
It's toss up for me between Bo Burnham and Danny Putty.
I know
Still.
you're a big fan of the Danny Putty Hoyd. I'm a big fan of the age him up and just give it to Christoph Waltz. I would
That would
love
work.
a Christoph Waltz
work.
Hoyd, man.
I also think Christoph Waltz would low key kind of work for Dalinar if he got ripped.
See, if he's not Hoyd, I'm tempted to put him in a bad guy position just because he
Sadeas.
plays.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just because he plays the bad guy so well.
Or I think Stellan Skarsgård for Sadeas.
Stellan Skarsgård for Sadeas,
Yeah.
and you'd have to
After seeing
change-
him in Dune, like
Actually, I take that back. I was gonna say Amaram Christoph Waltz, but I still think that that's a different kind of person.
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz is like a.
literally like Odium.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz could be Odium.
Yeah.
That would be a fucking fire cast.
Yeah. There we go. All right.
Dude, but okay, so that would actually change the adaptation. You'd have to write Odium a little differently.
Yes.
Because Christoph Waltz is such a giddy villain. You know what I mean? He's
Not like he's intimidating because of his like
Lack of care.
his like
He's, like,
lackadaisical
sociopathic.
like yes.
like the thing that
Which I think would work
is
for
that-
Odium.
is
Yeah,
that
you could definitely
Inglorious
change that.
Bastards, the way that he resettles in his chair and he's smiling. He's like, oh, he's talking about like milk or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like Inglorious Bastards. Christoph Waltz. He needs to be a little jokery. He needs to be a little giddy with it.
Yeah.
Is a creepy fucker.
That makes it creepier, kind of.
Yeah.
If they're like happy about it.
He's a
Right.
scary, scary dude. Christoph Waltz Taravangian.
That would work. That would work.
It's even the right age.
Yes.
That one, you don't even have to change the character.
Yes, that would work too.
I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
All right. We got to get off the fan casting because we'll go down a
back
rabbit
to the
hole with
chapter.
this. I think we kind of talked about everything with that happens in the chapter. Oh, the other thing I did want to mention about this chapter is we get the first mention of the Way of Kings.
We get the first mention of the Way of Kings. We also get the first mention. I think I forgot to mention this. I think this was in the last chapter. When they're climbing the lookout thing, the competition. Dalinar feels the thrill of competition.
Yeah.
Not as big as the thrill of combat.
Yeah.
So we get a little hint towards that.
Yep.
That'll come back. And then, what did you just say? I'm so
With the first mention of the Way of Kings.
First mention of the book, the in-name book, the in-universe book.
He quotes it too.
Yep.
He quotes it by heart, which shows
And he's surprised about that.
He's surprised that he can quote it by heart, and then he's surprised because he's been listening to it so much.
Yeah.
I love the passage too that he remembers from it about
Wait, hold on, because
Yeah,
that's
go ahead.
such a good way to end it, like with watching the Bridgeman.
Yeah.
And the final, like, I have the last line written down because it's such a final quote. Let's end on that because that's such a fucking phenomenal passage for that. I want to Elhokar. Sadeas is like, do we really have to keep him around? And Elhokar goes, I like him. He makes me laugh. And the way that it's delivered, like Michael Kramer's delivery on that is so good. I like him. He makes me laugh. Like, that's a 14-year-old king right there.
It's great.
And then
So are you mostly just off topic a little bit, but are you mostly re-listening to it this time around, or are you doing a mix?
I'm doing a mix because I read up until this episode, and then this episode I did everything today, so I was like, put it on 1.2 speed. I went to buy weed and do errands and stuff, and I had it running, and I took notes on my phone and then transferred them to the book. So like today it was a listen. I've been reading it mainly, but I do like listening because Michael Kramer and Kate Reading add a lot to it, and I like revisiting that was such a good narration point of it.
I decided on this reread I wanted to, because I only listened to it the first time, I want to read it this time, just for a little bit of a different experience. But
I have it open to catch like funny, if anything interesting is in the formatting of the book. Like I have the PDF open to catch that, but I'm mainly listening.
Right. Did you listen to these episodes or these episodes, these chapters? This is a book, right?
This is a book. For audiobooks, I need to see it too. So like I do both.
You do both?
I do both because I need to. I dissociate. It's a problem, but I do both.
Is it because you dissociate, or is it because you're insistent on reading it at 2.2 speed, so you need to find your place?
Okay, when I read it first, I read it on 1.6.
Damn.
Mistborn's on 1.7.
I'm a 1.0 believer.
Oh yeah.
I only listen to audiobooks on their original recorded speed. I don't know why.
I had
but
a hard time doing this reread on 1.2.
You said that and I was surprised. We listened to Mistborn for me on 1.3. I was like, are you sure about that? But I do everything faster. Like I watch TV on 1.5. It's a problem. I get shit on for it.
That's great.
Yeah, you're
like,
nuts.
all the time.
1.5 on
nuts.
TV.
Yeah.
She has you know how some people have that Chrome extension where you can turn the volume up? So if you're like streaming to people and you need to turn the volume of Chrome, she has a fucking Chrome extension to make things faster.
I didn't.
It goes up to like 3 times speed.
Not every
4
video
times speed,
player has a speed option, and she's like, I can't deal with that.
This is me off.
I don't know how people do. I can't do. I can't.
No,
I can't watch videos
problems.
at higher speed. I can't listen at higher speed. I do. I get the listening to it and reading it at the same time. I actually think that's a really good way to like really retain what you're listening to.
Also, like it's interesting because some of the words are different, like when you're listening to it versus when you're reading it. I forgot what it was, but like some of the words are different. But when we were gonna do this like a month ago, I listened to it. But this time I was just.
Oh, so you were ready to go?
I was ready.
We were not ready to go.
Oh, I know. I was ready to go.
Yeah, I read today. Sam read over the past 2 days.
I reread today, and I reread on my way here. I'm not gonna lie, but I like read it. I was skimming through it.
Yeah. I've found that it's been a while since really since like college and like taking notes from like a textbook. And I've never really done this since like high school, I guess, where I'm like taking notes while I'm reading something, and this is like really helping me retain what is going on in the chat and like the important bits of it. And I'm really enjoying it. Like, taking the notes while reading is like I might just start doing this for fun. Like if I'm really enjoying a book, I might just start taking some notes on it. I need to start writing in my books.
You should.
If I own a book, I don't know why I don't just write. I don't know why I don't write in it. Like I own the book. Like what am I worried about?
Yeah, I've always thought about that as like I really like it.
I'm not writing in this one.
Don't write in that one. But like annotating books is such a good idea because like I always wanted to be one of those people that has like a room where the entire wall is a bookshelf in my home as an adult. And wouldn't it be so badass if my kids and grandkids come and I have fucking annotations in the books that I've read so they get to see like what their grandfather thought about. Like that's just cool legacy.
It is
shit.
cool.
That is cool.
But you know the thing I was showing you for D&D, the Obsidian thing.
Yes,
I've been wanting to start writing down notes for things I read in there because the graph is so cool. Yeah, like I love hyperlinking shit to itself in that app.
Yeah,
if you guys like apps, check out Obsidian. It's such a good notebook app.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored.
That's a free one.
That's a free one for you boys out there at Obsidian.
Obsidian will write you an invoice.
Yeah, you guys deserve it though. It's fucking great. Truly amazing.
Speaking of D&D,
we'll
get back to the chapter. We're pretty much done with this. We'll talk about the last bit. But
we are at a minute 41 by the way.
A minute 41.
An hour 41.
That's fine. We took a little break. The Stormlight RPG is rumored to be coming out this year, I think.
Interesting.
And I am so excited to see what that's like. So, have you seen the official miniatures?
No.
There was a Kickstarter for it like last year, I think.
I did not.
And there's some official Stormlight miniatures of like the main characters and stuff. It's pretty cool.
It's exciting.
The miniatures look okay.
You're a big board game guy, though.
Well, I'm just a big miniature guy. I do. So I've
high expectations, high standards.
Yeah. I'm spoiled by Warhammer models. So, do we want to finish up this chapter and then call it?
Yeah. I gotta pee. I don't want to take another break though.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the passage from Wave Kings?
I don't have it written down.
I don't have the passage written down, but it's about we don't know who the narrator is yet of this book.
Correct.
But it's Noadon.
For those that don't know, for some reason.
And he
Ananya,
talks about
who's Noadon? Quick pop quiz.
Quick pop quiz. You answer that.
Noadon is the
Uno reverse.
first king of Urithiru, I believe, who walked from somewhere to Urithiru and is an eccentric man.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, this was a funny question. I don't know the fucking answer.
Yeah. We don't really know who. We know he wrote the Wave Kings.
Yeah, but it's not Tanavast.
No.
We just know he's Noadon,
So,
and Noadon is not Tanavast.
Anyway, the passage is about this king seeing a spindly old man carrying a stone on his back, and everyone is moving out of his way, not out of courtesy to him, but because they don't want to be caught up in the momentum of his steps and knocked over. And he describes it as like the weight that a king carries on his shoulders when leading a kingdom. And he gets out of his like palanquin or whatever and goes and helps the man and everyone. And he talks about if the king can help like the least fortunate like carry the load, then maybe the people will help the king carry their own load. And then Dalinar talks about how like it's not a very popular book because of stuff like this in it is completely counter to Alethi logic.
It also says that light eyes are beneath dark eyes.
Yes.
Like explicitly at a certain point.
And it talks about the Lost Radiance.
It basically goes against Vorinism.
Yes. So
is the main thing. And then we have
he'll find it.
I'm just making sure we didn't miss anything. Adolin getting in over his head. Adolin getting in over his head as he's just standing here listening to Dalinar talk about his relationship with Sadeas, the fact that he was drunk on the night, the fact that Sadeas was the decoy.
Oh, yeah, he didn't know anything.
The fact that he thinks he's getting visions from God. His son is just standing there like, I just thought you needed to be like more aggressive, Dad.
He's like, I'll take that into consideration.
And then we get... I can't read that fucking word, dude. Write better. They were the lowest in the army, and yet they bear the weight of kings. And weight of kings is a very funny play on words of way of kings, by the way. It sounds very similar. Yeah. It's definitely wordplay.
No way.
Yeah.
All right. So that's chapter 15, and that's as far as we're going to get today. Good thing we didn't read chapter 16.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Do we want to do a quick favorite, least favorite?
Oh, God.
I think we should. We got to keep it consistent.
I mean, my favorite was definitely Nothing Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Renarin, can you say anything without saying anything ridiculous? And he goes, anything ridiculous, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. My least favorite, I don't know, phenomenal chapters. I'm going to veto this time. Literally a gas set of chapters to read.
This is good. This is a good set of chapters.
Favorite, I was also going to say just Wit in general.
Yeah.
Like, his introduction
of
was
Wit.
amazing. Which also differs from like his other appearances in other books.
He does get a grand entrance in this book, right? And you don't really see that because we read Stormlight first, and then we're like hunting for Hoyd. We're Hoyd hunting
And
in other
he's so
books.
different. Like in Warbreaker, he was so different.
So different.
Like
He's just a dude.
He's just a dude.
In Mistborn,
So
he's
different.
I love that. You know, I'm blind in my left eye. And you know what? I'm 43% blind in my right eye. And then Kelsier turns around and uses that exact same line.
I'm blind.
Phenomenal fucking...
That was hilarious.
And then him in Secret Histories is more him. But then, like, again, if you have read every Hoyd up until Stormlight and then come into Stormlight, you're like, that's Hoyd. That's Hoyd. And Hoyd is getting a grand entrance this time.
Mm-hmm.
And he does. He gets a grand entrance.
He's just so different. But anyway, that was my favorite. I'm also gonna veto least favorite because these were amazing.
All right, I'll start with my least favorite because I do have, and it's the Hoyd bit where
He says
he's
it's
slut
sluts.
shaming, and like it
Okay,
just
that's
feels so out of place for the series.
It's
Like,
fair. It's
yeah.
fair.
That's fair.
And I did not like it very much. And then my favorite part is I can't believe neither of you said this is Dalinar catching the claw.
Oh,
okay.
And- like, are you kidding me? That's the best part. That's
Yeah.
objectively the best part.
I also have another. It's like a short scene, but it's like Adolin and Renarin, like their relationship in this, I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
I do really love Renarin trying to calm Adolin down like
They
every 2
balance each
seconds.
other, and also like that. I think it was like women in the whatever say that Renarin's weird, but Adolin's like he's fine.
Yeah, he's like all of the women that he's spoken to.
Find him
they
off-putting or
think that
something like that?
Renarin makes him
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and Adolin's like, I've never experienced
I'm
that with
fine.
my brother. I love my brother.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and you wouldn't expect that. I don't know, but they're so close, and
It is. It's a very. It is an out of stereotype
yeah,
for Adolin, which
Yeah.
is just another one of the examples of the fact that stereotypes don't exist in Sanderson stories, because you see his archetype of character, and you're like, okay, he probably doesn't like his brother because his brother's weird and stops him from getting bitches. But no, Adolin loves his brother because Adolin's a Chad.
he's a good person. Like
Yeah.
we see that he's a good person.
This is how you do what Sanderson was trying to do in Elantris, where it's just a good person
He figured it out.
in a bad situation,
He
and
figured
it's
it out.
they could still have an arc. Just because they start as a good person doesn't mean they can't have an arc. They can still learn and grow.
Do we
No,
want?
you don't just get to be a perfect person and be flat the whole time.
Do we want to really quickly before we end?
No,
this
I have to
episode-
pee so bad.
I have to pee so bad too. For all you listeners out there, if the earthquake caused the Shield, what if another earthquake happens? How much earthquake preparation is Raiden gonna have to do now that Elantris is back up?
You mean the Riode?
What the fuck ever, dude? He has a lot of planning to do to keep Elantris from falling again. I would hate to be fucking Raiden in that situation. Anyways, thank you for watching this episode of Couchpact. We'll be back again with episode 16, a lot faster than this one came
Did you
out.
say
Episode
16?
16.
With
Chapter 16.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get back on schedule now. But Ananya, thank you for coming on. You've been a great guest.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
We'll see you again.
See you soon.
We haven't
Hopefully.
killed any of our guests yet. So.
Not yet.
Not that they know of.
Yeah, we haven't brought Mike,
Saying.
but actually we did for Warbreaker.
For
Oh,
Warbreaker.
Mike's still alive.
But there was like a month
Cannon's
break.
still alive. All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.